This is where it all began. The England versus Scotland rivalry isn't just old, it's the oldest in international rugby. Their first match in 1871 predates every other test fixture. And unlike many rivalries driven by trophies or bragging rights, this one is soaked in centuries of political tension, border battles, and cultural pride. The Calcutta Cup, introduced in 1879, added silverware to the fight, but it's the history that truly fuels the fire. In the early decades, Scotland dominated the fixture with passionate home crowds in Murrayfield and a scrappy tactical style that frustrated the English pack. England, on the other hand, leaned into structure and size. The 1925 Five Nations saw Scotland secure their first Grand Slam, beating England at a packed Murrayfield in a match that felt more like a national celebration than a game. Flash forward to the 1990 Grand Slam decider at Murrayfield, and it's pure drama again. Scotland entered as underdogs but beat England 13-7 to claim both the Grand Slam and a moral victory that echoed across decades, even into the modern Six Nations. The rivalry remains fierce. The 2019 match, a 38-38 draw at Twickenham, was one of the wildest finishes in Six Nations history, with Scotland storming back from a 31-0 deficit. This rivalry isn't about world rankings. It's about grit, national pride, and the stubbornness of two neighbours who refuse to back down. Few rivalries carry the global weight of New Zealand versus South Africa. It's not just two elite teams going head-to-head. It's a clash of rugby philosophies, cultures, and dominance. When these two meet, the entire rugby world watches. The first official test between the Springboks and the All Blacks happened in 1921 in Dunedin, and even that series ended with controversy, a 1-1 draw, with the third test ending in a draw that left neither side satisfied. From there, things only escalated. By the 1930s, South Africa had become the only team that consistently challenged the All Blacks physically and tactically. The 1956 tour by the Springboks to New Zealand was a defining moment. It was the first time the All Blacks won a series against South Africa, and it elevated the rivalry to mythic proportions. The series wasn't just tough, it was brutal. Massive hits, mud-stained jerseys, and intensity that felt like war. The 1970s continued this legacy, but the rivalry took on political weight due to South Africa's apartheid regime, causing boycotts and controversy. When South Africa was readmitted to international sport in the 1990s, their first World Cup win in 1995 came, of course, against New Zealand. In extra time, with Mandela in the stands, uniting a fractured nation, it was cinematic, unforgettable, and personal. In the professional era, the rivalry has remained razor-sharp. The 2018 and 2019 matches showcased Springbok resilience and All Black brilliance, with each match decided by inches. It's not just another fixture, it's the measuring stick for greatness. While South Africa may match New Zealand in intensity, no rivalry is more personal for the All Blacks than their battles with the Wallabies. The Bledisloe Cup, introduced in 1932, has become one of rugby's most contested and at times one-sided trophies. Early encounters saw back-and-forth battles. Australia's rise in the 1980s under legends like David Campese and Nick Farr-Jones pushed the rivalry into global headlines. The 1986 tour, where Australia beat New Zealand in a series on Kiwi soil, was a statement of intent. They were no longer little brothers. But the All Blacks struck back hard in the 90s. Under Sean Fitzpatrick and later Richie McCaw, New Zealand dominated the Bledisloe Cup, going on a near two-decade streak where Australia couldn't reclaim it. That dominance shaped a generation of wallabies and fans who carried a chip on their shoulder. Still, the games are electric. The 2000 Bledisloe at Stadium Australia saw 110,000 people packed into the stands. Still a world record for rugby attendance. The game itself, a thriller. New Zealand won 39-35 after Jonah Lomu bulldozed his way through defenders to score in the final minute. Despite the All Blacks' recent dominance, Australia remains a dangerous opponent when the Wallabies are in form. Like during their 2015 World Cup campaign, they can dismantle anyone, including their black-clad neighbours. Don't let the geography fool you. This is more than a neighbourly squabble. Wales versus England is one of rugby's most passionate and emotionally charged rivalries. Wales sees England as the overbearing empire. England sees Wales as the feisty little brother with a massive punch. And when they meet, the intensity is off the charts. The rivalry kicked off in 1881, and for years England had the upper hand. But by the 20th century, Wales developed a brand of running rugby that changed the game. The 1970s were a golden age for Wales. Players like Gareth Edwards, JPR Williams and Barry John ran circles around the English defence, and Cardiff Arms Park became a fortress. Fast forward to 1999, Wales closes out the old Wembley Stadium with a dramatic win over England, courtesy of Scott Gibbs slicing through the defence to score in the final minutes. That try is still etched in Welsh rugby folklore. And in the Six Nations, the rivalry has defined championship titles. In 2013, England arrived in Cardiff with dreams of a Grand Slam, only to be crushed 30-3 by a fired-up Welsh team. It wasn't just a win, it was a demolition. This rivalry is fueled by more than rugby. It's about history, rebellion, identity, and the noise from a full Principality stadium makes it feel like a civil war every time. While the Springboks and Wallabies had faced each other since the 1930s, it wasn't until the dawn of the professional era in 1995 that this rivalry exploded in importance. With the creation of the Tri-Nations tournament, now the Rugby Championship, these two began meeting annually, giving the feud structure and fuel. After returning from sporting isolation, South Africa was desperate to prove itself. Their win in the 1995 Rugby World Cup on home soil was a national turning point. But when it came to regular competition, Australia often had the upper hand. The Wallabies, with sharp tactical minds like Stephen Larkham and George Gregan, had a flair for outmanoeuvring South Africa's brute force with speed and precision. The early 2000s saw classic encounters. The 2002 Tri-Nations match in Johannesburg, won 33-31 by South Africa, was a perfect example of the brutality and drama these fixtures produced. However, the Wallabies consistently frustrated South Africa in tight games, especially on neutral ground. This rivalry isn't as headline-grabbing as All Blacks versus Springboks, but it's quietly become one of the most competitive and evenly matched. Both sides have traded wins, trophies and tackles for decades. Every game is physical, fast and utterly unpredictable. France versus England isn't just a rugby rivalry, it's a clash of cultures, playing styles and national pride. Nicknamed Le Crunch, this fixture has been a mainstay of the 5, now 6 nations since the early 20th century, but from the 1990s onward, it began to feel personal. England, with its structured set-piece play and clinical kicking, often found itself at odds with France's flair, unpredictability, and emotional firepower. The 1991 Rugby World Cup quarter-final saw England win a brutal contest in Paris, marked by fights, fouls, and pure drama. That game set the tone for the next 2 decades. In the 2000s, both sides traded Grand Slams and tournament wins. The 2003 World Cup semi-final was a tactical masterclass by Johnny Wilkinson, whose boot knocked out a French side that many thought had the talent to win the whole thing. French fans still remember the 2005 Six Nations, where France edged out England 18-17 in a nail-biter at Twickenham, and the 2010 match in Paris, when France completed a Grand Slam. The rivalry remains a staple of European rugby, fueled by history, proximity, and a deep-rooted competitive streak. And every time Le Crunch kicks off, fans know they're getting a heavyweight battle. You won't see Fiji versus Samoa grabbing international headlines like All Blacks versus Springboks, but ask any rugby fan in the Pacific and they'll tell you this rivalry is everything. It's not just about pride, it's about identity, culture, and a battle for respect on the world stage. These nations share more than geography. They share a rich rugby heritage built on raw athleticism, fearless tackling, and offloading brilliance. Their matches, often held in searing heat before passionate crowds, are brutal and beautiful. There's no holding back, just 80 minutes of collision and flair. Fiji's fast-paced, off-the-cuff style meets Samoa's physicality and defensive grit. The 1991 World Cup was Samoa's coming-out party, while Fiji's deep runs in 1987 and 2007 cemented their status as serious threats. Whenever these two meet in Pacific Nations Cup fixtures or World Cup qualifiers, the result is electric. Off the pitch, there's mutual respect. On it, they leave nothing behind. It's grassroots rugby with global-level talent, and it's the kind of rivalry that reminds fans why they fell in love with the game. For decades, Ireland versus New Zealand was more like a rite of passage than a rivalry. The All Blacks won every single encounter, 28 straight wins, some close, most brutal. It wasn't until 2016 that the tide finally turned, and boy did it. In Chicago, of all places, the Irish made history for the first time ever. They beat New Zealand 40-29 in front of a stunned crowd at Soldier Field. It wasn't just a lucky win either. It was dominant, organised, clinical, and it shattered the mental block. Since then, Ireland has become the All Blacks' most unexpected nemesis. They beat them again in Dublin in 2018, then again in the epic 2022 tour, taking the series 2-1 in New Zealand, a feat almost unthinkable even 5 years prior. This isn't just a competitive matchup, it's symbolic of the changing rugby world order. Ireland, once the polite challengers, are now a tactical machine. New Zealand, the eternal giants, now have to dig deep every time they meet, and in every clash since 2016, the margin of error has been razor thin. Once considered cannon fodder, Argentina is now firmly in the mix. Their first ever win over the All Blacks came in 2020, a pandemic-delayed rugby championship match that changed perceptions overnight. Since then, the Pumas have beaten New Zealand again in 2022, proving it wasn't a fluke. Their physical style, coupled with increasing tactical maturity, has made the All Blacks take notice. What once felt like a mismatch now carries edge, anticipation, and real consequences. While it's still a young rivalry, it's growing fast with more competitive fixtures and a rising Argentine core. This could become one of rugby's key matchups in the next decade. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.